Who doesn't like action at your role playing table? However, there are times, especially in role playing situations, where silence can be useful both as a game master and as a player. Silence at the table doesn't mean that you're running the game poorly, nor does it mean that you're playing the game poorly. Sometimes it can just be an inflection point or be used to add some weight to a particular situation. So, my name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. When you're playing tabletop role playing games, sometimes there are certain segments of it that are going to be a little bit quiet. There are things like downtime, there are going to be things like long rests. And if you're playing other tabletop role playing games, there could be short rests. However, in these moments, it doesn't necessarily mean that every single character needs to be speaking or needs to be contributing, nor does it mean that the GM has to necessarily interject in order to advance a plot line if you are trying to encourage more role play at your table. Sometimes the greatest thing that a GM could do is allow the silence to sit at a table and allow the players to take a moment and decide what they'd like to do, especially if they want to role play. In a lot of cases, we tend to feel that silence means that people are bored or people aren't having a good time. However, there could be moments where it is a somber moment. Maybe they are trying to role play their respect to their God. Maybe they're trying to role play their respects or their thoughts for their fallen comrades. And maybe it could just be the vastness of the world, or maybe the presence of some type of somber element. And there's something else to consider that in a lot of times, silence from players sometimes means that the players are listening. If you have a table and there is one person who is kind of role playing a lot and they are telling a story, and the other people at the table might not be necessarily contributing to that particular story, take a second and look at the situation and see if the players are listening, or you as a player allow the other members of your particular party to role play a situation out without feeling the need to interject what you would like to do. For certain personality types, and me included, silence can be painful, and we tend to rush to fill that silence because it you think it means that someone isn't having a good time, or there are bad things happening at the table, or maybe people just aren't having fun. But sometimes just let that silence sit. Once again, you don't want a session to be total silence, but if it is a minute, 2 minutes, if it is a time of reflection, then allow, as a GM, the players to reflect, and as a player, allow the other people at the table time to reflect on the situation. However, one thing to consider is there are bad silences too. So let's talk a little bit about that. So when I talk about bad silence, I'm not necessarily talking about, once again, this general silence you might have when someone is reflecting on something that happened in the story. But bad silences specifically can be painful. Let's say that someone suddenly feels uncomfortable with something that has happened. Let's say someone suddenly feels that their voices aren't heard, and therefore they're retracting themselves from the story and retracting themselves from the table and are just kind of done with the table for the night. Now, it is up not just to the GM, because it is my belief that the GM is a player just like everyone else, and they are there to have a good time. Even though they are running the story, they are still a player as well. But it is up to the GM as well as the other players to recognize when someone is feeling uncomfortable, when that silence is not reflection, but is actually could be turning to resentment or could be turning into that bad silence. If you are the game master, or perhaps you're one of the players at the table, and you recognize that maybe this bad silence is beginning, it might be a good time to call for a break. Allow the players at the table to kind of decide what they would like to do, and possibly give the person who has been silent time to think about how they might like to interject in order to make the game fun for them again. And if after the break, the what you feel might be bad silence is still continuing, then maybe the thing to do would be to ask the table if an encounter, a situation, or something that happened in the story was uncomfortable for someone, and maybe ask how we can proceed to remove that discomfort, or maybe change the particular encounter, situation, or plot line in order to make it fun for everybody at the table. Tabletop role playing games should be a joint exercise in having fun. And it's kind of the responsibility of everyone to pay attention to that. Have fun yourself, without a doubt. That's what you're there for. But it is also, don't have fun at the expense of others. Now, I do hope you like this little tip on kind of role playing silence and the point that silence has in tabletop role playing games. And I do hope you like the video. If you did like the video, feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.